about something something that progresses every day in process. I don't know how it can be like that. It is here. I see it always with my clients. I feel every day with every situation, there is something new. And there is something, sometimes I cannot explain it. I can see it. That's why I'm thinking to write everything as schemas, as in picture and small explication, because it's real, and it's it's like a wave from the Platonic to the Socratic to Aristotle to Kant to Heidegger to Ricoeur to it's like here.
Very interesting. Patricia, your hand is up. Would you like to comment or question, please?
Yes, a comment and yeah, maybe a question also. And yeah, I share with Lou the impression. Your presentation threw me a little, because I remember your Ricoeur presentation, your article. So really, it's something totally different and very interesting. Yes, it's a different approach from, for example, my practical approach to client. It's totally different, but it seems to work and to function. So it's really interesting, and it's a sort of really, the terminology is mathematical. I mean, function and equation, and it seems to work. I mean, if you obtain the results and the outcome, and the clients are satisfied and make a step forward into their journey towards their flourishment and their fulfillment and their happiness, as Shanti would say, it is okay. It's a totally different approach from the one that I am used to, and it's very interesting. And also the terminology sometimes, I mean, you speak about mind or and brain, which is some sort of more complex term for me. I mean, in a philosophical dimension, and yeah, and if I had to read, but just just utilizing the model that Alex before presented to us, just stay into models, because you presented another one. It seemed that your approach to the practical philosophy as a counselor is a sort of voluntary and rationalist, between these two. A voluntary and you invite your client to take his or her hands in her and to react actively. So as a volunteer act to fix objective and be efficient, and in a rational construction of your methodology. But it works. So it's really interesting and really, yeah, amazing path you have done. Yeah.
Thank you, Patricia. It's really a nice path, because the basic was the hermeneutics, and the way the hermeneutics
recur.
Yeah, it's like a mathematical schema for me, like how we begin, and the A, let us see the B, prepare the B prepares the C prepares the D, and all those tools help so much the client to understand. So the main word, the main concept here is understanding. And when I use this kind of practice, even with clients in 5 years old, feeling scared from nights, feeling scared from violence at home, even with clients at 80 years old, the same schema is here. So they want to understand, they need to understand, and the way they need to understand doesn't mean that I should tell them it's about equation. No, it's not the case. the schema right away as equation. I see it as equation. And then I proceed to let them know every variable in the situation and begin to work on each one to let them have a very large understanding. And then by themselves, they proceed to think logically, and in different situations, it works. Like it is a tool. A give B, B give C. So what do you want? You decide to work on that. So we should begin by first step, second step, third step, and it works. And it works. Like one more example. In the metaphorism, when I give example, I don't prepare it. I don't search in a big bag of examples. So it comes like that. And when it comes like that, it means there is some formula to use this example in this situation, and it works. That's why I suggest to Alex recently to not to use this school or this school. When it's here, it's always like that in this situation, and it helps. Thank you.
That's really interesting. Are you asking? I'm going to call on Vaughn. I think she wants to comment. Do you ask them all to draw? Do you invite them all to draw? It's not necessary, or do you use that as a tool?
No, it's like a tool, and sometimes with different kind of clients. Sometimes we need to go to an example from Jean de La Fontaine. Sometimes we go to the like, let's say, to a screen where there is a picture with different kind of illusion, and here they want to think in different way. It's not about plain things. It's about more and more. So it's about a kind of stimulation. I stimulate their thoughts in a way that they can find the way to reach their stability and their understanding.
That's very, very interesting. But it's a kind of representational medium in there. I mean, it does remind me of Plato because it's a mimesis. However, whether you do it with a drawing or whether you do it with a narrative or a fable, La Rochefoucauld, or however you're doing it, there's a representation of something that you're showing them, which is coming from them, right? Which you see it and they didn't see it.
Yeah. But when they see it, things become so easy. Like for a kid, 5 years old, he feels scared from his dad, always shouting and talking. I use the monster, the fake monsters. So why I named it as fake monsters? I name it like that because there is a monster in his house, in his home, and I let him be the second monster. So he saw the equivalence between two monsters. So no need to be scared. And then things went perfectly.
Interesting. Okay, Carol has a question or comment. Please go ahead, Carol. Chalista.
Hi, Carolina. Fascinating. Thank you so much. I have a question though about one of your examples. You had that young woman who was unable to focus, right? She had 3 children, you said? Yeah. Okay. How did you get her to focus on the process?
Yeah.
How did you get her to focus even on herself? I mean, that must have been very challenging. And I'm wondering how you met that challenge, which you obviously did.
Yeah. I can say it as it is. So the first time she came, she told me like all what you saw on the screen. And the first thing that came to my mind it's about putting limits to small actions. So if she wants to put the plates in the dishwasher, I asked her to stimulate her brain, to stimulate her thoughts about putting the dishes not in 1 hour. Everybody can put the plates in the dishwasher like in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So it took with her like 1 hour to do it. And she's, no time. The time doesn't exist in her mind. No time. So I begin with her step by step with small acts in real acts, daily life. And every time she can do something in limited time, I asked her to note it, to write it on a paper. And the next session, she felt herself obliged to have a small paper as homework with her. And I use the repetition, which is mathematical part, the repetition for more than 3 weeks, because in more than 3 weeks, the link can be built between the kind of thinking with limited time in acting and her brain.
Now, if I may ask, what is the repetition of? Of what?
Yeah. As mother, she has her daily life working. Okay? So every time during her day, she finished something, she will write it. So all her day became like points. So I made the link between what she has and the limited time she should be done, and the paper where her mind, her external self, can see her achievement. So she wrote dishwasher in 5 minutes. So when she read dishwasher in 5 minutes, so she understands that she can do it. Why the repetition? Because after 3 weeks, doing that kind of exercise, it's become natural, like habits of mind. It become like Antonio de Nicola was talking about it.
Yes.
It's habits of mind.
Right.
It's like you educate your mind how to deal with things, with the new things, with a new kind of thinking. And always I let her evaluate herself. What do you think? It's about what? Are you okay? Aren't you? It's good for you. It's not good for you. And it's a heavy exercise for those who have anxiety, because everything was like flu. And I can tell you now, she's happy. Happy.
So it's anxiety of a certain type, because there are all kinds of anxieties. I mean,
yeah, certainly. But she is still taking Prozac without knowing Plato's Lou. So this kind of Prozac for 10 years old didn't make any help for her. And let's say 3 months, 3 months of sessions and deep sessions change her life. I'm not the hero. I'm the tool to let her see that she can be okay. She can reach clarity. She can do what she wants in a limited time. And now she's very good. I'm keeping always looking after clients with small words, like everything is okay. Are you doing good? And the system is working good. It's a function, I think. It's a function. It's a mental state of doing things. Now she is on this level. Bear with my English, huh? I'm French educated.
So it wouldn't work with just, or maybe it would, with generalized anxiety disorder.
Let me tell you something, Carol. In philosophy, I think, I don't know if you agree, there is no categorization. It's not about this kind of anxiety is for that. This tool, we can use it for that. It's about the philosophy of the anxious person. And every person with his anxiety has another type of thinking of
Right.
another one. So it's
Right.
not about generalizing, or this kind of work is for this client. I had so many clients, young and adults, with anxiety, and coming from a psychiatrist therapy and psychoanalysis and so many things, and only philosophical counseling was helpful for them.
Right.
Why? Because there is a kind of stimulation for their mind, so their mind begin to work, to renew the work, to activate. It's like non-activated status. Okay.
May I underscore the importance of Carolina's answer to you, Carol, because you're asking her about a label in the DSM. And
No, I mean, I'm not.
they're diagnosing symptoms. They
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing. They're democratically electing illnesses every year according to the extent of the colonization by Big
Right.
Pharma. So homosexuality was a mental illness in the early DSMs. Then the gay lobby took over. Now it's not a mental illness, it's a norm. DSM is not science.
No, I know that, Lou. In fact, I published an article on that a
Sure.
couple years ago.
I mean, so what I'm trying to underscore is simply
Personality
this, that
disorder.
if you go to, somebody who goes to one of these cookie cutter psychotherapists and says, "Oh, I'm anxious, but I don't know why," they get the blueprint, they get the cookie cutter diagnosis and
Right.
the cookie cutter prescription, but they may never be touching, and it may help some people, but it's not touching in so many cases the core problem. And Carolina is touching the core problem, from what I gather. Which is quite extraordinary, but not really surprising. It also sounds to me like part of this is out of the Nicomachean ethics. It's practicing. It's this repetition. That's what makes it virtuous.
Right.
Is the small steps of practicing something, right? And if it's a virtue like organizing our time, then it's done in increments. That would Aristotle would love this.
Yes, it's very Aristotelian. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think it is.
And I also agree with you on the DSM. I mean, I think it's hugely problematic for our whole culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we all agree on the pathologization of the human condition, but Carolina's giving a concrete solution. And again, it surprises me, Carolina, I'm delighted by this. It shows your own versatility, because you came at us, and we remember the paper. Patricia remembers very well.
We didn't hear you, Lou.
Hi. Go ahead. So did you have a Monica, is that you? Would you like to question or comment? I just saw Monica pop in.
No, it's not me. Someone else.
It's somebody else. Okay. So it might have been somebody else. I just saw a glimpse of somebody on the screen.
Lou, I would like to add one more small thing. Always, I hear the famous sentence in the end of the consultations, like after so many sessions, I hear like, "I don't know, doctor, what you did, but it's magical working. I restart to see myself in active mode." So my answer always is, "I didn't, you do." And when I say to the client, "You do," and the client feels himself engaged to be always updated with his own activation. So it's a huge work. I'm talking after, like I always said, heavy experience, because it's about hundreds. more than 600 clients I saw and make session with.
And were you seeing these clients in Lebanon, or are you seeing new clients in Nova Scotia?
No, in Lebanon and globally. I always worked on online working with the COVID. It's the good shape of COVID.
Yes. Oh,
We
good
can
for
be
you.
wherever we want.
Okay, Lydia, please go ahead. Lydia was waving.
Lydia, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you very much for a wonderful conversation. I have a few comments. First, I will become a counselee. Second, I wasn't present at your presentation in New York, but I see a direct line between understanding hermeneutics, which was the theory, which you put in practice. So this is your own path from theory to practice, and in itself, it's an example. Third, if you have 600 clients and that kind of system, and you are not worried of sharing it, maybe you would write a book for Lexington series.
I am. I did an Arabic book in Arabic language, and now I'm preparing one in English to mention in all this kind of examples and.
So think about Lexington if you're interested. And I would like just to say something, because I think that Carol's remark was important. When I addressed my students and in class in Boston, and I talked about the Stoics' view of anxiety, whatever, they told me that I am mistaken, that philosophy cannot touch or address anxiety because it's unconscious, it's untouchable, etc. So in America, there is a big ethos of that. And so Carol's remark was important in that we cannot forget the psychological medium in which we are all living, or some of us more than others, and that as young people, they are already induced with that philosophy even cannot give any advice with that. But just to bridge the thing, I think what you give back to the clients is a sense, especially for anxiety people, it's very important, a sense of control. So they need the control, and you give them the control, and also a tool. The tool. And in the power relation between reality and the human being, you give back the power to the human being, which calms the anxiety, or he or she is on top. And also, I read somewhere that the human animal need discrete, small acts or foods or things, and we lost that. And just to concentrate on that, make our life much more meaningful. It's not the indefinite, this is where we get lost, but the finite, the concrete, So congratulations, it was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. One more thing, please. I should mention that so many times I had clients with like psychose or nevrose, and you can to the suite, you can right away, see there is something not logical. They need somebody. They need to be referred to a psychiatrist and the nice part is that when I refer them to a psychiatrist, they come back when they feel stable and ready to think. They like so much to go in the adventure of thinking and rethinking. That's why so many psychiatrists were able to deal with clients to come back to me, because they know that this part of thinking and reactivation can help their patients too.
If I may just say one more word, this was always my experience too. I was referring people to psychiatrists and psychologists when they were ripe for that. And then the work worked well there, and then they came back to me and always worked in good cooperation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
let me
Thank you.
underscore the importance of that too. Sometimes it's Plato and Prozac.
Yeah,
I mean, in a strictly medical context, if someone breaks their arm, philosophy is not going to fix their arm. But they go to a doctor and they get the bone is set and put in a cast. Then they can come to a philosopher and say, okay, now what's the best way for me to lead my life with an arm in a cast for 6 weeks? This becomes a question of value and meaning and purpose, and then we can talk to them about that. So we've always envisioned a potential collaboration between medicine and philosophy, which is ancient, actually.
yeah,
The problem is more what Lydia said in passing, which is particularly in the US, less in Canada and less in the UK, but still the problem of the power of the psychology lobby for so many decades and the political influence they have is to really psychologize people. And there's nothing wrong with knowing yourself psychologically, but most people don't realize that they have a philosophical side and they never know themselves philosophically. That's the real problem. Philosophy is underutilized as a resource. So what we need to do is to reclaim, in some sense, that part of the culture which has been just ignored, namely that people have a philosophical side, and the older they get, going back to to Alex this morning, as people mature, I think they become better, in a sense, qualified and equipped to want to explore the philosophical side. Let's face it, if you're an adolescent, I don't know about you, but I will tell you, when I was 18, I had philosophy professors who failed to interest me in Plato because I was interested in motorcycles and rock music and a lot of other things, which 18-year-olds should be interested in, arguably. But as we mature, then philosophy assumes a more important role. So anyway, I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I hope you'll reproduce this in Canada because it will be in great demand there too.
there is something so dangerous in Canada. I recently observed it. They talk about anxiety like we talk about lasagna, and like we talk about pizza, and like we talk about anything, like it's normal to have anxiety. So when you see children, they are like 5 years old, it's normal to talk, maybe Maya has anxiety. Maybe Rodolphe is suffering from a depression. So one day I told one group, it's not about talking about anxiety like we talk about toys. It's not the way. So all the cult of the culture is ready to have anxiety.
Right.
So it's so dangerous.
Yes, Carolina, this is because they've been psychologically predisposed to have it, and because it's a very lucrative market for psychotherapy and for psychopharmacology. But what they need is education, and as practitioners, it becomes our job, actually, not just to counsel privately, but to be advocates in a public way, to speak to groups, as you were just saying, and educate people about the possibility of introducing philosophy into their lives. This is what we also have to be, in a certain sense, consumer advocates, to let them realize that not everything that they're consuming from the culture is good for them.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments? Gary, you've unmuted yourself. Do you want to chime in here?
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, from the Canadian context, I mean, I certainly think that some very good points have been made. I mean, I think, and this is a place where philosophy, I think, matches up with some other things on the borderline, like the cognitive science study of embodied cognition. I think one of the things happening with anxiety is, you might say, it's been over-somatized, right? I mean, the symptoms of anxiety, you feel them in your body. And so it's very easy, therefore, to treat it as though the anxiety itself, the cause of the anxiety itself, or the principal cause, is in the body. And of course, I'm sure, a psychiatrist or a neurologist could point out there are cases where that's true, but I think it makes it a very easy thing to do. And so I think sometimes coping with anxiety involves a kind of shift in a person's relationship with the feelings in their body, right? If they're told to listen to the feelings in their body because they tell them things about their body, then they wind up, in fact, not able to connect with the other dimensions of what's actually causing the anxiety. So, anyways, I just thought I'd throw that in. It seems to, I agree that there's a great deal of talk about anxiety, as Caroline is saying, just as she says in Canada.
Yeah, but I would like to say something, Gary. Sometimes it will be about a little deviation. So when we think all the day that we are overwhelmed, I feel like I cannot breathe. My muscles are. Sometimes, if you decide to go walk every day and to have a healthy routine, you will not feel anymore your tiredness in your body. And when you deviate your thoughts from what I have, what I feel, and pass to the creative plan, even in small things, even in a small drawing, in a small writing, in a I don't know if in singing, in dancing, in whatever it is, crafts. When you deviate to this way, you forget that you feel overwhelmed. You forget, like it is with Jennifer. It was so clear. She cannot see or feel where is the anxiety, where it is, where I cannot see it. Right. It's real. What I wrote, it's real. It's with. That's why I gave example, because it's real. I always see it with clients. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Remember, it sounds like Nietzsche. He who forgets is cured, right? And it's a wonderful thing, and related to that is stress. And Americans suffer horribly from stress related to anxiety. And then now there are studies showing you take people, especially children, out of the inner city and you put them in nature for a few hours, and the stress, it's measurable. The stress goes right down just from being in a natural environment. Take a walk in the woods. It's not a panacea, but it helps a lot of people. On the devil's advocate side of this, it turns out that there are about 10% of cases where people go to psychiatrists with anxiety-like symptoms, and they are actually not diagnosed properly because they could be symptoms of underlying neurological problems, which present as anxiety but are actually more serious. And psychiatrists miss this because, again, they have la déformation professionnelle. They're only seeing that. So we also have a system which really sets people up for a problem, because the system is depersonalized. You're going to a gatekeeper. You're not going to a family doctor who knew your family, who knew you, who knew your situation. You know what I mean? In the old days, medicine was more personal and in a certain way more reliable. They didn't have as good the technologies, but we had a better system in person oriented. Now they're treating illness, not people. And and we are working with people still. So that's a big issue. We're working with people.
Yeah, right.
Really interesting, Carolina. Very surprising and refreshing presentation. Lydia, you have one more thing, please.
Yeah. I just want to notice. We talked about psychologists and psychiatrists, but notice that Carolina functioned also as a coach, a philosophic coach, with the exercises, with the following up after that. And this is something to be outlined, emphasized as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any last question or comment? Carolina, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this, and we will look forward to your book in English. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Please submit it to Lydia or whoever makes you the best offer, if I'm allowed to, and we'll get it published. Okay.
I have no offer to offer.
Well, you've already offered her a publication. That's already something. Okay, I'm just joking,
Thank
but
you.
I look forward to reading more about what you're doing. And
Thank
thanks
you.
again
Thank
for
you.
presenting to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.